Rudy, I want to start off with this latest Ipsos poll that shows the old story. If an election was held today, believe it or not, the Liberals would take the lead, 42% ahead of the Conservatives, and conceivably anyway, even form a majority government. Your reaction to that, because it seems kind of incredible.
Yes, it is. It is incredible, and it's not the only polls. We now have three different polls basically saying the same thing, that the Liberals are now ahead of the Conservatives and that it is in majority territory. I mean, it's an incredible turnaround, what's happening with Mark Carney, the fact that a lot of people are returning to the Liberal Party. But also, I think one of the main explanations, it's really the collapse of the NDP vote. You can see also in the polls that the NDP is at 9%. Sometimes they were up around 15, 20%. So you can really see that some people are returning to the Liberal Party and leaving the Conservative Party. Before they were maybe against Justin Trudeau, but now they trust Mark Carney. But also a lot of left people, left-leaning voters are trusting Mark Carney or at least want to block a Conservative government and are willing to put their support behind Mark Carney. So it's really, really interesting. It tells you that the campaign is going to be tough. It's going to be fought every single day. And what happened in the United States completely changed what's happening in Canada right now in terms of the political spectrum.
So let me ask you, if you were advising at this point Pierre Poilievre, given the fact that these polls are showing what they're showing, what would your advice to him be? Because he can't hang his hat on carbon tax Carney anymore. So what's the advice?
Yeah, that's the difficulty, because even today, Prime Minister Carney announced, for example, a new defense spending in the Arctic, a new radar. So again, he's really tackling every single issue that the Conservative has been put forward when it comes to obviously the carbon tax, when it comes to defense spending, when it comes to defending Canada's sovereignty. You can see that the Liberals, they have a game plan of saying, okay, we're going to neutralize every single issue that the Conservative have been hammering for at least a year or two or even more. So look, it's really difficult because Pierre Poilievre needs to say, look, all of this, I've been saying it for years. And the problem is that two main issues, for example, housing or immigration, that used to be main topics in Canada, no one is talking about it. So it's really, really hard for the Conservative to try to find space to have also media attention, because obviously everything is on Mark Carney, and the Liberals know that they want to neutralize every single issue before we go into a campaign. So it's very tough advice for Pierre Poilievre for the moment. I mean, he needs to continue hammering the same point, saying, can you trust the Liberals? Because some people are saying, are they really going to balance the budget, for example? Can you really trust them on the carbon tax? Because even the carbon tax, Mr. Carney is trying to say that they've canceled it. They haven't canceled it. They just suspended. They just put it at zero. But to do that, you need to bring a bill to Parliament. And as you know, Parliament is prorogued right now. So it was a good strategy by the Liberals. Now the Conservatives need to go back and hammer issues that Canadians worry about. But everything now depends on Trump, and he can derail every single day of the campaign, Mr. Trump, in terms of announcement or reaction that he's going to make on the economy.
Rudy, what's your take on Carney's idea not to meet with Donald Trump and basically say, look, until we have something to talk about and I see some respect from the president, I'll just carry on. He went to Europe. He's doing his thing, talking to other allies. What do you make of that? A lot of people called him out for that.
Yes, because look, you can understand that if it's not going to be a good meeting, if Mr. Carney doesn't want to have that image carrying during the campaign. So I think that he wants to avoid, having a conversation that you always know that with Mr. Trump, he can go and say whatever he wants after the meeting, even if they agree on certain things. So I think they just want to say, look, there's no political advantage to either go to Washington or even to have a phone call with Donald Trump, because if there's some insults, for example, from Mr. Trump, if, for example, he doesn't call him prime minister the same way he did with Mr. Trudeau, he would look weak, and that will carry during the campaign. So I think that was a tactical move from Mr. Carney and his team not to engage with the U.S. until he's after the election.
Let me move back a little closer to home. So we had a by-election at Terrebonne last night. The big story, of course, the not just the PQ win, but the size of the PQ win. But at the end of the day, this is 5 people, in the National Assembly instead of 4. How much of a difference does this make? Are we reading too much into this to show the PQ having done as well as they did?
No, I don't think so. I think it's very important because, look, you have to understand that people are voting for the PQ not because they want sovereignty. They're voting for the PQ because they're not happy with the CAQ. And that's a very bad sign for the CAQ a little bit more than 1 year and a half before the election. So I think that the CAQ must be worried because obviously people are not happy and it can be a lot of different issues. We know what's happening, for example, in education and healthcare. So people are not happy and they're turning their votes to the PQ. The Liberals have, I believe, less than 8%. So it's also not good for the PLQ. It means that they're not able to get seats outside of the island of Montreal, what we call the 450. They're not able to, again, gain some votes with the Francophone community, and you need that to form a government. So I think it's good news for the PQ, and also it's a very bad news for the CAQ and for the PLQ.
I just want to ask the question because, again, I realize it's a big win for the PQ, and yes, it's a very bad result for the CAQ. But at the end of the day, we're going to find out very, very soon who is going to be the next leader of the Provincial Liberal Party. I would imagine at that point, Rudy, once we find out who that person is, once that they start talking and standing up and, getting up in the National Assembly, I think things may change provincially for the Liberals. Do you believe that or not?
I believe, yes, it can. But again, it's the same issues. They need to show that they're not just a Montreal-centric party. They need to show that it's not on that they need to win the heart and the mind of Francophone voters, because for the moment, either the PQ or the CAQ was able to do that. So it all depends on the personality of that new leader, but also the message that he's going to send, because people are not happy, but they need to reestablish their credentials. For the moment, we don't know exactly what is the PLQ. We don't know their position, even on the economy, for example. So we remember that Jean Charest was all about, for example, the economy, same with Philippe Couillard. But they need to get their credentials back in terms of fighting for Francophones, but also on the economy. And at the moment, we don't know who's going to emerge, but we'll see what's going to happen. But yes, it's possible that they're going to gain some traction after when they're back. But for the moment, the PQ is the one. Everybody is saying the PQ as the official opposition, even if they only have a handful of members of the National Assembly.
All right, last thing I want to ask really quickly. We heard today, of course, the Premier had said there will be a full investigation into the whole CAQ scandal. And today we found out Denis Galland is going to be looking into this. And he, of course, worked with Sonia Lebel, who's now the Treasury Board president, but they worked together back on the Charbonneau Commission. And I heard a couple of opposition parties saying, wait a sec, we need to do a better job. This is not exactly a neutral appointment. What do you think?
Yes, I believe the PLQ has been very clear that they don't want to see Judge Galland as the commissioner of this inquiry. Look, I do believe that it just sends the wrong message. It's all about going to the bottom of it. Look, when I was in Ottawa, I was against, for example, having Governor Johnston being the inquiry when it comes to foreign interference because of his relationship with Justin Trudeau. I do believe that I have the same stand. It's not. I know he's a judge, but at the same time, it's the image that he was working with, for example, a former minister. He's going to be asking questions specifically to Sonia Lebel, who's the current minister and Treasury Board minister. So I do believe that it wasn't a good appointment. Look, we're 8-9 million people in Quebec. I believe we could have found somebody who doesn't have any link with an actual cabinet minister right now.
All right, and that's where we'll leave it. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Rudy.